So my cousin reached out since I've already mentioned her on the podcast before. She wanted another shout out, and so she sent me a photo of herself enjoying some rosé on the Amalfi Coast, straight from the bottle.
Oh my
Wow,
god. Hashtag life goals.
what a vibe. Speaking of, I love to deliver good news, and I'm excited to tell you that good wine, even if drunk from the bottle, does not get you drunk.
Um, okay, Ruby, we try to report truthfully on, health issues and wine here on the Four Tops, so let's not put out fake news.
Yeah, this is making me a bit uncomfortable.
Well, you guys are going to feel like fools once I tell you who my source is.
Okay?
Ooh, plot twist. It's the WHO.
No, even better. It's supermodel and chanteuse Carla Bruni,
Ah.
who is also currently a suspect in a witness tampering case against her husband, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy.
Yes. Ah, yes, witness tampering. But you know what? I love Carla Bruni's music. I think I've declared this before on the podcast.
Mhm.
So I gotta say, whatever Carla says, I'm gonna believe it.
Yeah, never mind that her husband, Sarkozy, allegedly has taken money from everyone's favorite late Libyan dictator, Muammar Gaddafi. If Carla says it, it must be true.
That's right. The diva herself was recently interviewed about her latest vintage of rosé.
Oh, yeah, that's the Roseblood des du Blanc from Chateau des du Blanc. I've been reading about that.
Yes, roseblood rosé. So
Mhm.
Bruni declared that, and I quote, wine shouldn't make you drunk.
Wow,
Uh-huh.
this is really great news for health conscious wine drinkers. I'm glad we can amplify this message on the show.
All right. Well, so I can never doubt Carla, but hold on here, guys. It looks like this rosé is about, I don't know, it looks like it's 12.5% alcohol by volume. So,
Right, but it's good wine, so it shouldn't make you drunk. That is girl math.
ah.
Ah, that's why it wasn't computing for me. I have found the drinks business article you're referencing. I pulled a wonderful quote here. If I'm on holiday and have nothing to do, I enjoy a glass at lunch, which is just basically like saying, rosé, good for when you're bored.
Nick, I'm disappointed you did not read that in a French Italian accent, but anyway.
I'm not.
I think I now know why her rosé does not get her drunk because apparently she's a day drinker and so she must have a killer tolerance.
Uh, yeah, I mean, maybe it's that wine doesn't get her drunk, but I don't know why then she bothers waiting until lunch. Might as well start the day off with a glass of rosé. It's probably lower in sugar than orange juice.
Oh
That
yeah,
is so true. It's basically a health food.
I agree. D'accord. Nightly wine and cheese parties may just stave off dementia. Canned wine stink is sunk. Smokey the Bear says power companies must pay for smoke tainted wines. And was 2023 the vintage of the century? All this and more on your favorite wine news podcast, The Four Top. I'm Catherine Cole, joined by Ruby Welkovich and Nick Toole.
Have you guys ever experienced the canned wine fart?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You drink too much canned wine, and then you wake up the next day, and you're a little
No,
bit
no, no, definitely
hungover, and then
not. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
oh,
about when you're at an outdoor concert venue or a sporting event or whatever, and you get a canned wine and you're so looking forward to it, but you open it and it like passes gas in your face.
Oh, yes, I have totally had that experience. And hey, guys, I can tell you what that's all about. I mean, volatile sulfur compounds, most notably mercaptans and hydrogen sulfide, can give wines that tooty stink. Now, this can be a result of reductive winemaking where not enough oxygen is part of the winemaking process. But this is a particular problem. Yes, I agree with you, Ruby. I have definitely experienced wine farts with canned wines. But the good news is there is a solution at that baseball game or wherever you are. You just need to decant it. Or just find a glass or a solo cup and let that wine sit and get some oxygen, and it will improve over time as it airs out.
Okay, that makes sense that wines are hermetically sealed in cans and that's why they have this problem. There's just no oxygen in the can.
well, that's close, but not the whole story. So we looked at a piece in Wine Spectator this week, and it highlights the work of scientists at Cornell University who have identified the root of the problem for wine in cans. And that is that small amounts of sulfur can react and stink up when they come in contact with aluminum, aka cans.
Mhm.
I was a little confused at first because I have a lot of experience packaging alcoholic beverages into cans. And I was thinking to myself, they already have like a polymer plastic lining to prevent reactions with aluminum. But apparently, that is not enough to stop this particular sulfur aluminum reaction. So,
Mm.
interestingly, that only happens with wine because beer does not react in the same way.
Hmm. I have been wondering about that. Yeah, I guess, wine just has more sulfur dioxide in it. Not only do winemakers use it as a preservative, but I know it's also a natural byproduct of wine fermentation. But I will say, getting back to that point of using it as a preservative, winemakers do tend to put, it feels like, more whites, rosés, and bubblies in cans because these are styles that just kind of lend themselves to being in a can. They're those porch pounders, those smashable wines that are just so good chilled and drunk fresh. So these are the styles of wines that winemakers are more likely to hit with SO2, keep them tasting fresh. So what you're saying, Nick, it sounds like that sulfur, that preservative is interacting with that aluminum and making those stinky farts.
Okay, this is so interesting because I have noticed that natural wines are less flatulent in cans, if I could say that. Is that because natural winemakers are using little to no silver?
Yeah, for the most part. And because the cans are hermetically sealed, winemakers don't need to blast their wines with sulfur anyway. They're
Hmm.
understandably worried about spoilage, but the environment inside the can is inert. Take it from me, someone who's packaged many of these alcoholic beverages. You can lay off the SO2. You don't need to worry about it.
Oh, good to know.
Hey guys, just in time for Pride Month, we are proud to announce our June sponsor is Voon. That's VOON.
Yes, that's right. Voon is a new LGBTQ plus owned wine label focusing on low intervention, small production wines.
Shout out to owner Evan Anderson and his fiance Cameron Foxgrover. Congrats on your upcoming nuptials, guys.
Yes, congrats.
Yeah.
Voon is committed to craft, artistry, intention, and authentic winemaking. And the bottles feature these really beautiful, whimsical labels that are really works of art.
Ruby would know. She is an artist herself. So we are going to taste a delicious wine together right now. So let's pop open the Santa Rita Hills Gruner Veltliner.
I feel like this can be a little bit of ASMR.
We are swirling, we are sniffing. Refreshing, citrus, mineral,
It's actually really refreshing.
and also kind of a peachy note on the nose.
Yeah, like a white peach. Really nice,
Really
like
good.
bright acidity to it.
I love the texture. It's kind of got a richness to the body, but then
Mhm.
the acidity keeps it lively and light on the palate. So I feel like I'm getting both kind of a light, refreshing aperitif and also like a substantial dinner white at the same time. This is a really versatile wine.
Yeah, I almost taste like a little bit of honey.
All right, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's really delicious. When I think of the Santa Rita Hills, I just think of like gorgeous open skies of sunlight and wind coming up off the Pacific. And so that ocean wind gives you that acidity, but then all that it's just that huge open sky of beautiful sunshine that we don't have here in the Willamette Valley. So that's where you get that ripeness. Mm-mm.
I'm a big fan of this one.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, Voon wines are made by winemakers Jessica Gasca, who has been generating buzz for her own label, Story of Soil, and Matt Brady, who is the winemaker at Samsara. So, some pretty solid cellar talent.
Voon is a new brand, and the name comes from owner Evan Anderson's childhood nickname. Last year, they released their first wines, an organically farmed Pinot Noir and a Chardonnay.
In 2024, Voon introduced a free-run single vineyard Pinot Noir and this delicious, organically farmed Gruner Veltliner we are tasting right now.
That's right. They are also making a cool climate single vineyard Grenache. These are all from the Santa Rita Hills. And they'll be adding an orange Malvasia and an old vine Mourvèdre from new AVAs as of this next harvest. And I am super excited to taste those.
Voon crafts wines for life explorers, those seeking something unique and maybe a little eccentric.
Check them out online at voonwines.com, and you can use the code FOURTOP, FOURTOP, for 15% off your first order.
Well, as our listeners know, it has been a tough couple of years for the alcohol industry, and that's partly due, we think, to a new slate of health warnings from governments and organizations like the WHO. Now, we at the Foretop agree that heavy drinking is across the board unhealthy, but when we stumble across a little bit of science that points at alcohol's health benefits, we are there for it.
Yes, and today we would like to thank the scientists who have found that daily doses of wine and cheese protect people against dementia. Thank you, brave researchers. We salute you for your service.
Yes, thank you. Thanks to these scientists at Iowa State University who dug deep into the UK Biobank, which is a large scale medical database that contains anonymous health data about 500,000 individuals. That's huge. The researchers followed up with more than 1,700 individuals with some very specific questions about diet and found that the people who had consumed a daily glass of red wine with cheese had
Mhm.
significantly reduced risk of developing dementia.
That's the way to do it. Yeah. So these researchers were studying fluid intelligence, which sounds like wine intelligence, but no, it's actually abstract problem solving without prior knowledge. So these researchers were tracking the participants' performance on a fluid intelligence test, or otherwise known as their FIT score, while also tracking their intake of 49 different types of food or beverage. And among those 49 different types of food and beverage, cheese and also wine very clearly rose to the top of the yeah, keep doing that foods.
The paper states that daily cheese intake strongly predicted better FIT scores over time. Alcohol of any type daily also appeared beneficial, and red wine was sometimes additionally protective. It also points out that excessive salt consumption was correlated strongly with poor cognitive function, which is pretty bad news for me, particularly. So I guess I got to stay off the salty snacks, and as should you, and limit processed meat consumption, folks.
I'm a little confused because cheese is very salty. So, hmm.
Yeah.
Also,
Hmm.
did you look closely at the original article? Because we pulled this news from the drinks business this week, but this Iowa paper was actually published back in 2020.
Okay, Ruby, you may actually have some really good points here. We may need to re-record this segment. Okay, let's think of the new headline. To combat misinformation surrounding the health benefits of wine consumption, prominent wine publication digs up old news and presents it as new. But wait, that's way too long. Nick, you're my headline writer. Can you help me out here?
Yeah, I'm thinking time is a flat circle with sides and a bottom, and you can pour wine into it. So, not really pithy, but scientifically sound.
All right.
Okay, guys, we've talked about smoke taint on the pod before, right?
Yes, thank you for giving me this opportunity to announce my new punk rock band based here in Portland, Maine, Smoke Tank.
I'm sorry. I think that's the name of my alter ego in my next one woman show. So,
Okay, guys, reminder smoke taint. We're talking wine here. Quick reminder wildfire smoke can seep through grape skins while the fruit is hanging on the vine. It makes wines taste like barbecue sauce, pretty much. And so, when it's a really bad wildfire year, wineries often have to toss out the entire vintage.
that's right, which is why 40 Willamette Valley vineyards and wineries filed a $102 million lawsuit recently. I think this was on May 24th. According to the Associated Press and the Portland Business Journal, wineries are suing Pacific Power. Well, technically, they are suing the power's utility parent company, Pacificor. They are claiming negligence on the part of Pacific Power, saying they sparked the 2020 wildfires that caused major smoke damage to Oregon grapes.
And this is not the first lawsuit of its kind in relation to the 2020 fires. Pacific Power is being hit hard by the wine industry, with dozens of wineries suing in total. A couple of months ago, another group of wineries sued for $49 million, but this suit for $102 million is sending a very clear message.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that message to power companies is really basic, guys. When it is hot and dry out and a windstorm comes blowing in and state officials are telling power companies to shut down the power, guys, shut down the damn power. People can live without power for a day if it keeps our state from bursting into flames. I mean, this just seems really basic and I'm glad these wineries are suing.
Yeah, and I have some good memories from when I was a kid. When there would be blackouts, my mom would bring us all to the basement because it was cooler there and we would light candles. And it was like I don't know, it was kind of fun for a night. So I think that turning off the power for a day is not necessarily a bad thing. And good on the wineries for suing. We shouldn't lose sight of the personal tragedies that came out of those 2020 Labor Day weekend fires, which were among the worst natural disasters in Oregon's history. They killed 9 people, burned more than 1,875 square miles, and destroyed upward of 5,000 homes and other structures.
Yikes. Yeah, we do not really get fires like that in the Northeast. What was that like? It was pretty close to Portland, right, Catherine?
Yeah, gosh, that was like the end of the world basically because it was 2020 and so everyone was wearing masks and freaked out about COVID and the fires came right to the borders of the city of Portland and it was like nighttime all day. It was serious end times. It was not good. And of course, even worse to be in rural areas that were just completely destroyed.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Last summer, New York got the smoke from the fires in Canada, and that was crazy. So I can't even imagine what it was like to have the fires that close.
So, speaking of wildfires, Karen McNeil, former guest on the Four Top, had a piece on decanter.com this week that reminisced about the Napa Valley before wildfires became an annual occurrence. McNeil writes that she has had to evacuate her home 4 times in recent years due to the
Mm.
threat of nearby fires.
But McNeil says 2023 was a break from wildfires and wild weather. She writes that it was a long, cool, unblemished growing season. And she says that 2023 was a, quote, once in a century vintage for Napa Valley, akin to the 1961 vintage in Bordeaux.
Oh man, this is really good news for Napa Valley after a spate of difficult growing seasons. There were the Atlas and Tub fires, I remember in 2017, and of course, the glass fire in 2020 was devastating.
Yeah.
According to Napa Valley grape growers, since 2017, 60% of the land cover in Napa County has been touched by fire.
That is absolutely crazy. Plus, the region was plagued by drought for a decade starting in 2012, with 2020 being particularly bad. I believe it was the driest year since 1977. So we're talking Dust Bowl levels of drought here. Speaking of wine and the Dust Bowl, grapes of wrath, anyone?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just a little joke while we talk about fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 'cause what's funnier than wildfires and droughts? Yeah, and, fluctuating temperatures haven't helped either. I remember being down there during harvest, I think that was 2022, year before last, and it was 110 degrees out. The grapes were just, like, roasting on the vine. It was not a good scene.
Well, after all that rainfall last year, Karen McNeil is saying that 2023 was an exceptionally long and cool growing season, and it is the vintage of the century for Napa Valley.
Yeah, Catherine, sounds like you're going to have to ship us some of the 2023 vintage ASAP.
Well, it's gonna have to cellar age for a while, but I am very excited to taste this vintage and very happy for all of our friends and colleagues.
Listeners, head over to our Instagram feed to comment on our most recent question of the week. A couple of recent questions have been: is climate change affecting spontaneous fermentations? And wine in paper bottles, cheap or chic?
So I'm thinking, what should we post this week? Maybe a showdown? Like, are you team canned wine fart or team smoke taint?
Okay, Nick, let's keep it classy here. I like to think the Four Top is a civilized podcast. All right, how about this, guys? Do you think 2023 has been the vintage of the century in Napa Valley?
I
All
think
right.
that'll work. Let us know what you think, folks.
I actually am not a huge fan because it means that we can't talk about taints or farts. So
Anyway, now it's time for our dessert course. And Ruby, we have not heard from you recently, so why don't you serve up some dessert?
Sure. This one's a little random, but this weekend was really hot in New York and I was craving a popsicle. And I found, do you know the brand Outshine? They make popsicles,
Yeah.
like
yeah,
fresh
I've
fruit
seen that.
popsicles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I purchased some and they are mango flavored, covered in tahini.
Ooh.
They were really good. So like really sweet and then covered in this sort of like chamoy. And then I guess the tahini is chili lime for those who don't know what tahini is. So you get like sweet and then a little bit of sour from the lime and then spicy from the tahini.
That sounds awesome. My wife would absolutely kill one of those.
I thought it would be really good if I took one and let it melt in a glass with some tequila, maybe some soda. A little, I don't know,
Ooh.
popsicle cocktail.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah. This actually makes me think of something else that's happening in New York. I don't know if where you guys live, there are fruit vendors.
Oh, I've seen them when I've traveled, but we don't have them in the Northwest. I don't think it gets hot enough.
Yeah, so when you come to New York, you might see people selling. Obviously, this mango tahini popsicle is inspired by cut up mango and served with tahini, which is a pretty popular street snack in New York. And this summer, cops have really been really harsh with fruit vendors. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to local fruit vendors. If you're in New York and you happen to see someone selling mango or fruit on the street, try it out and support those people.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to be there this weekend, so that sounds good to me.
I'm excited to have dinner with you, Nick.
It sounded so
I'm excited
earnest.
for the photos, you guys. All right. Well, this has been the Four Top Podcast. I am our executive producer, Catherine Cole.
I'm our non-executive producer, Nick Toole.
And I'm media and design manager, Ruby Walkovich.
Keelan King is the composer and performer of our beautiful theme music. Please visit our website, thefourtop.org, to learn more about us and listen to back episodes.
And if you have not already subscribed to The Four Top on iTunes or Spotify, please do so. And please leave us a rating.
Y'all, this is important. Every rating feeds the algorithm and helps new listeners find the Four Top.
Well, from Boulder, Colorado, where I just dined at Frasca, and I can now die happy, this is Catherine signing out.
And from the home of your Portland Sea Dogs, Portland, Maine, this is Nick Toole signing off.
And for Brooklyn, New York, with a reminder to support your local fruit vendors, this is Ruby signing out. Stay safe out there, and thanks for listening.